Okay, so now once you have created virtual network by yourself, let's focus on VPN gateway. As we know how to deal with the virtual network in Azure Cloud, this diagram is going to show you what is the purpose and what is the use of a virtual private network gateway. If you're working in the corporate industry, especially in IT, I'm sure VPN is not a new term for you. Whenever you are working from home and if you're trying to connect with your office network, the thing which you use is actually VPN. Now, if you see right now in this diagram, Microsoft is trying to show you that let's say you have an on-premise network. This is your company network, which we can call like one site, and that's what they are calling it, local site. And then you have one virtual network which you have configured on Azure Cloud. That's another site. Now, when you have one network and the other network and you want to connect them, the best way to do that thing is Azure VPN Gateway. So that's what VPN Gateway is used for. It is used to send encrypted traffic between an Azure virtual network and an on-premise location over the public internet. Now, when you're connecting one network with another network, like this, is known as site-to-site network. That's what we call S2S, site-to-site network. We also have some other options, like when you are connecting from your home to the office network, that is only one computer which is connecting with the office network, that you can call it point-to-site. So we have P2S, point-to-site, and we have site-to-site kind of networks in which VPN gateway is required. What this gateway is going to do? This gateway is going to work like an encryptor. So whatever data and connections which are sending from this network to the other network, that is going through the secure tunnel associated with this VPN gateway. This virtual private network tunnel is going to make sure that the data encryption is going to be taken care, security is going to be taken care, and even if you have devices in both the network, like maybe I have some computers in this network, I have some other computers and virtual machines in this network, then those devices is going to have a certificate-based security configured with that. All this configuration is taken care by VPN Gateway. Now, one thing which I want you to understand in this statement is there is one word here which is public internet. When you are using VPN Gateway, you have to understand that this gateway allows you to connect with the other network on the public internet. There are chances some big organizations are going to not like this. They're going to do the communication between multiple virtual networks, but they do not want to use a public internet on that. Even though you are sending an encrypted traffic, using a public internet is sometimes going to be very risky. At this moment, you have to go for the other alternatives other than VPN Gateway. The other alternative for this is known as ExpressRoute service. This ExpressRoute service is going to extend your on-premise network into an Azure over a private connection. This is not going to use a public internet. This is going to do this thing over a private connection that is facilitated by the connectivity provider. These connectivity providers are other organizations which are officially partnered with Microsoft Azure Cloud. As you can see in this diagram, we have a customer's network, which is here. We have our Azure services on the cloud, so everything which is at the right side, maybe the applications, maybe the services which are hosted on the Azure cloud, or maybe some other network level virtual machines, all the right side things are actually my Azure hosted services. If I want my customer's network and my Azure hosted services should be connected, I can use ExpressRoute service, which is going to create a bridge kind of a thing in between these two things. We have to have a Microsoft Edge. This Microsoft Edge is actually going to be that part which we are going to configure from the Azure side. And then we have a partner edge, which is provided by the connectivity providers. This partner edge configuration is going to physically connect my Azure network with the customer's network. You can see in between this, the customer's connection is nothing but those physical cable connections which are established in this particular way. Now, when you're doing this thing, this is more secure, or this is going to be more expensive way to use the connection from one network to another network. If you ask me which is better for me, well, I will say it totally depends on your requirement. If you're a big organization and you have a lot of data to transfer from one network to another network more frequently, then you have to go for the ExpressRoute, especially when you do not want to use public internet. But if you are okay with that, your VPN gateway can also give you a higher bandwidth, higher configuration, and in few minutes you can set up those things without paying any additional cost to the connectivity providers and partners. Now last but not the least, we have a service which is known as Azure DNS. Let's talk about this. Reliability and performance by leveraging a global network of DNS name servers using anycast networking. Now DNS are actually those services which are perfect for this kind of configuration. Azure DNS security is based on Azure Resource Manager. It is going to allow you to enable role-based access control, monitoring, and logging on that. Now, what are these things? If you are not familiar right now, you will be able to understand that thing in some time when we are going to talk about identity and security. Azure DNS is going to give you an ease of use for managing your Azure and external resources with a single DNS service. It is customizable virtual network, allows you to use private, fully customized domain names in your private virtual network. And these are nothing but an aliases record to support alias record sets of point directly to an Azure resource. Now, cutting the long story, whenever you are configuring any app service, any other service on Azure Cloud, there are many services in Azure Cloud which give you this kind of a DNS configuration. For us, if you want to remember, Azure DNS is just a fully qualified domain name kind of a URL which you can configure, and that alias name you can refer. Once you configure that, you can refer that for the future usage. That's what Azure DNS is all about. It is advisable for many services that when you configure them, you configure the Azure DNS, which is going to be a name server, and then you can use it for your networking configuration.